In continuing coverage of the Valley's animal crisis, animal advocates say the numbers of feral cats keeps growing, and the numbers put a burden on rescuers and shelters. Jacqueline joins us now with more on what the county proposes to tackle this problem.
There are 200,000 community cats in colonies across the valley. Clark County Animal Control is looking to zero in on colonies that become a nuisance. Some rescues point out some root problems, more spay and neutering needed, and problem homeowners that allow cats to gather and breed.
I'm also going to put a smaller kitten trap down there too. We're one of those rescues that take in the most injured, the most sick. We are very overpopulated in cats and kittens.
Community Cat Angels is literally in the trenches. We followed them as they rescued a stray mother and her kittens from down the drain. Like so many rescues in animal shelters across the valley, they are already full. Feral cats that are not spayed and neutered contribute to the ongoing overcrowding issue when they need medical intervention.
You find a lot of underfed, malnourished cats. They're still having babies, so then they have underfed, malnourished kittens.
The Animal Foundation says there are 200,000 community cats across the valley. They're not socialized to live with humans, and they're meant to live outdoors. They have to be trapped, spayed, or neutered and released so the cats don't multiply. The county says they do spend $180,000 a year to trap and release 6,500 feral cats. Sometimes large cat colonies cause noise, howling, fighting, and messes to homes and businesses. Animal control leaders recently told the county commission they want to add more teeth to code to declare a colony a nuisance.
So this would define that nuisance.
County officials say what could change is still a work in progress, but several rescue groups say animal control needs to crack down on a root cause: problem homeowners. They feed cats, attract a lot of them, but don't call for help to spay and neuter. The homeowner who took this photo did call Community Cat Angels to help.
We call them feeder breeders. Feeding is not enough. If you're going to feed the cats, you need to fix the cats. I would like to see focus on TNR.
It could take about 3 months before we could see the proposed changes in county code. Rescue groups say they'll continue to call for more funding for trapping and releasing, or TNR. If you have concerns about cat colonies in your neighborhood or want help with spaying and neutering, we have all the information from the county and the Animal Foundation. It's in the link in this story on fox5vegas.com.